Hi everyone, and happy third Thursday. My name is Michelle and I coordinate events for Algonquin College. This marks our final third Thursday event for the 2020 year. And although the year quickly took a turn, I'm so pleased that we can have continued to do our third Thursday programming. And welcome back to those of you who have previously attended a third Thursday, and welcome to those who are tuning in to third Thursday for your very first time. So for those of you who don't know, Third Thursday is a cross-college collaboration, and we host these events on the third Thursday of every month. We bring in local innovators, speakers, entrepreneurs, and creatives to you so we can learn from one another. We're going to play an event promo video that shares a little bit about the Third Thursday philosophy, the background, and it will also highlight our three panel members for today's session. So Ryan, may you please roll the clip? Hey Algonquin College, we're launching
the third season of Third Thursday.
What's Third Thursday?
Third Thursdays are conversations
that spark ideas and create community.
Every month, we invite local experts and innovators
to share stories that inspire and empower listeners.
This year, in our virtual edition, we challenge you
to tune in on the third Thursday of every month.
In a new location in your home.
We challenge you to change your space into a place.
And we'll bring inspiring innovators from inspiring places to you, virtually.
Let's explore this new reality together.
Students, employees, alumni, and community partners.
Forge meaningful connections while learning from each other.
The Third Thursday community is story-driven,
curious, and collaborative.
And we're not afraid of perspective shifts
or pushing the envelope.
We skip the small talk
and dig deep into topics that matter.
We're here to fuel dreams through dialogue
and to turn passion into purpose.
Come and be a part of the story.
We are going to be joined by the talented youth educator, graphic artist, curator, and muralist, and father, Mique Baptiste. Bring your questions about graffiti and let's have an open dialogue with the talented Mique Michelle. You may have walked by one of Mique Michelle's stunning murals. And last but not least, Algonquin College's graphic design graduate, Asma Inam, who has worked with brands such as McDonald's, DreamWorks, Salesforce, and Nickelodeon. And she's also taken over Instagram with illustrations that are meant to spark conversation and inspire. The panel will take your questions, so please join us and get ready to feel empowered. Great, thank you, Ryan. We clearly have an incredible lineup of artists joining us today. So to kick off the event, we're now just going to ask that everyone open up the chat tab along the bottom of your screen. And we ask that you please type out the answer, or your answer, to the question, what does art mean to you? This could be a form of art, or maybe for students, so why you study art. So what does art mean to you? But before you press send, we'll actually I'm going to count down from 3, and then we'll all press send at the same time and share our answers. Okay, so what does art mean to you? So send in 3, 2, 1, go. Awesome. Expression, communication, freedom of expression. I love that perspective. Freedom to create. Awesome. There's so much express. That's great. Thank you so much for sharing. Feel free to continue to use the chat throughout today's panel discussion. If you have a question for one of our panel members or for all 3 of them, we ask that you please submit your question via the Q&A tab, so also along the bottom of your screen. So we'll reserve the chat for discussion with the community. If you have an event or a technical related question, you can submit that via the chat. But for our panel members, please type it in through the Q&A tab. So before we get started, we have, before we get started with the panel discussion, we have another creative guest joining us today from Think Link Graphics. So here we have Lisa. She's going to be illustrating today's conversation in real time. So as you can see here, she's already started to capture a little bit of today's session. So at the end of the event, she's going to show a time lapse of the key themes that were portrayed in the event today. So we'll see that at the end. Thank you, Lisa. So now I'm going to turn the virtual stage over to my colleague, Susan, who is going to be moderating the session and introducing today's panel members.
Hi, everyone. So my name is Susan. I work with Michelle in the College Events Department, and I'm so thrilled to be moderating today's Third Thursday. Third Thursday is definitely one of my favorite events we have here at the college, and I nominated myself to moderate as a minor in art history in university. I feel like I got a real grasp on the subject. But yeah, just heard who the artists were gonna be. I've seen some of their art, and I just think this is a great conversation to have. So I'm gonna start off and introduce our talent. So our panel today includes Jimmy. Jimmy, will you say hello so that everyone can see your face?
Hi, everybody.
Perfect.
Hope everybody's doing well.
Good, good. And Mique, will you say hello for us?
Bonjour, salut la gang.
Bonjour. Okay, and last but not least, Asma, so nice to see you. Will you say hello for us?
Hey guys, thanks for having me.
Awesome. Okay, so let's kick this off. I'm going to tell you a little bit about each of our panel members. First up, we're pumped to have Jimmy Baptiste here with us. Jimmy's a father, a youth educator, facilitator, graphic artist, curator, and muralist. Raised in Montreal, Quebec, his work is inspired by the imaginative world of tattoos, graffiti, and typography, manga culture, and comic books. So much to say there. He promotes the use of murals and graffiti to engage people of all ages in positive skill-building experiences, while simultaneously supporting local arts and culture, enhancing the cities of the cultural establishments, beauty, and residential and visitors. And again, as I said, I've seen all pieces from all artists, and honestly, just really, really inspiring. There's going to be a link posted in the chat there that you can check out some of that stuff. So next we have Mique Michelle. I will say, really coincidentally, I was driving around the city this weekend and I was on Bank Street. Had not seen a mural by Mique previously, and it just jumped out at me. It was so beautiful. So again, really excited to have Mique with us here today. She is a Franco, Ontario from Field. Mique's nomadic journey allowed her to exercise her graffiti from Northern Ontario all the way to France. Amazing journey. Through her travels and studies at the Ottawa School of Art, she was involved as a mixed media artist, as an active facilitator of the arts in Ottawa. Her work can be seen in galleries, public buildings, and outdoor venues. Again, if you are in the Glebe and over in that area, the piece that you saw in the video on Bank Street is something special. Okay, and we are very proud to have Algonquin College alumni, Asma Inam, is on our panel today. So shout out to Asma, thank you for being here. With over 9 years of experience in the design industry, Asma brings her passion and drive for design and digital entertainment into each brand she works on. Over the years, she has contributed her knowledge and skill set to build digital experiences for brands such as Hasbro, McDonald's, Geox, Justice DreamWorks, Salesforce, and Nickelodeon, as Michelle mentioned in the video. Her passion lies in typography, hand lettering, illustration, user interface, and motion. So all really cool, such a diverse group, which is really, really great. And so now at this point, I want to really jump in and start a great conversation. I'm looking forward to this discussion. My fascination with art, as I said before, it started at an early age. I can remember thinking when I saw a really great piece of art that it just made me have all the feels. And so I'm hoping to create a really good conversation with our panelists today. Thank you to our 3 panels for joining us, and we're looking forward to hearing about your pieces. So I'm going to obviously welcome questions from our audience. And again, you can put those in the Q&A and we can get a conversation going. What I wanted to do was just kick off the Q&A period by asking each of our panel members to tell us a little bit about themselves and maybe some key themes or messages that you portray through your art. So I will start with Jimmy, if I can bring that question over to you, and we will start there.
Sure. Can you repeat that question?
Yeah, for sure. So just if, what art means to you, and if there's any themes that you portray through your art, or any messaging that you continuously tend to move toward.
Art, what art means to me? It's a pretty good question. Art is something that has always been able for me to extrapolate my anxiety and my stress that I have in life. And also, I come from from a poor family, so we didn't have toys. So for me, a pencil and a paper was a way for me to create all the worlds that I could imagine. I could recopy. I used to recopy Donald Duck and like all these cartoons on TV and stuff just to practice. And now that I've grown older, I try to use art as a mean to empower people or to create a conversation. So whether the conversation is negative or positive, there's always something to be said. To a certain extent, certainly when it's meant to be negative. But art, I think, is something that's extremely subjective. And it's art for someone to say that this art is good and this art is not good. So I try to give that perspective to the students that I teach and that I encounter, and share some positive energy and empower them through art.
Yeah, love it. I feel like that can be said, for so many different media types. I really encapsulated that really well. And so, Mique, I'll ask you the same thing, if there's anything to add there, or what themes you express through your pieces.
And I love that you picked like the three of us, because we have such a different I still being called an artist. I'm like, what? Ew, that's about feelings. I grew up wanting to be a butcher, and then things happened in my community I wasn't happy with. And I love how Jimmy talked about healing, but also the oral tradition from where I'm from. And I didn't know how to deal with those things, but through art, it's the safe way to visibly communicate something for many minorities, visible or invisible minorities. And yeah, and like you said, like it's so subjective, but at the same time, the only objective is it putting your message clear. Is your message clear through it? And yeah, so like the themes that I go through depends on the community. Most of the time, I think the biggest quality you could have as an artist is listening skills, like literally listening to the community and making sure you're not speaking on behalf, but giving them tools so they can feel comfortable to say what they got to say. And especially when you're talking about that bank street mural, that one was probably the biggest healing moment in my life. Like for me to even work with a church was like, yeah, it took a lot of heavy conversations, and the dialogue I find for art before and after art are more important than the piece itself often. And just wanted to shout out that like Komi Olaf's piece is right behind Asma. Yeah.
When we had, I met with Asma briefly before our event, and I was asking her about that piece because, like I said, like right away, it captures you and you want to know more about it. Asma, I'll come to you. If you want to talk a little bit about, what art means to you, and perhaps a little bit about the piece behind you.
Yeah, I mean, I'd be happy to start about the piece behind me. Komi's a good friend of mine. I met him a couple of years ago, and nobody's familiar with his art, they should definitely check him out. He's a Nigerian-based artist, like all around unicorn, really. It's definitely a conversation starter in my house. So a little bit about myself. I started in the graphic design program. So I kind of work in these dualities of, professionally being a graphic designer. I work as a UX designer for a tech company here in Ottawa called Distill Mobile. All the while, I also have my own personal work that I, since I started the program, have been working on, which is my own illustrations. I think I really resonate a lot with Jimmy and Mique in terms of, I think, what art means to me and my connection to it. I was always very creative as a kid. And for me, art really is a form of expression. I think a lot of the reasons why I do the work that I do for my personal work is so I think work through a lot of my own mental health, you know, or through a lot of just narratives around me. So it is I don't really, you know, when I post my art, I don't really share a lot in terms of words of what they mean to me, but I think it's really empowering for me how people do connect through it. You know, it's definitely a lot of it's a healing space for me, definitely.
Yeah, that's a commonality I see already, and I think that's really, really fantastic. We talk a lot at the college. You know, during the pandemic, it's so important to just be aware of mental health and staying sane and grounded. And I think that art can really speak to being able to do that. And, you know, the practice of art, as you guys have said, and then just viewing it as well. I really, really love that. I have to be conscientious because I could talk to you guys all afternoon, which is the intent, but I'm going to take a look. We already have a couple of questions in our Q&A, so I'm going to take it over to these guys, and then we can come back to follow up with this conversation as well. So we have our first question from Sarah. Thank you for joining, Sarah. Can you tell me about placemaking for BIPOC communities through community engaged art products? So it's BIPOC. Has anybody heard of this?
Black and Indigenous people of color.
Okay. And a little bit more information. And I should maybe preface, Sarah is our inclusion specialist here at the college. So certainly would be well versed in this. Obviously I'm not, so I'm happy to hear more about it. Jimmy, do you have any more information?
I just arrived here in Ottawa 2 years ago, so I don't really know that much about the art community. This year was actually my first year, so I might leave Mick talk about it. Maybe she has more information.
Yeah.
Yeah, especially in Ottawa, it's such creating space, but not just creating space, because I find there was such a wave of tokenism lately, and especially if you look at our galleries, and I forget and I apologize, we had a wonderful artist who made a list of all the galleries who do not have anybody of visible minority on their permanent roster. And just look at our National Art Gallery. It took 126 years before we had an Indigenous artist have a permanent show. And since then, we've only had 5 other artists who are an Indigenous with a full show. Like, and look at just around the world too, like any gallery. I don't need a map. I know that the Black art and Indigenous art is in the basement every time. I don't need a map. It's like that all around the world. And making a show that's permanent, but creating space for it, it comes with a huge engagement. Like House of Paint, I find are amazing for that. They make sure that their vocabulary, they ask for pronouns. Like Veronica, I gotta say, Veronica Roy is like, she can speak on this, and creating, how to say, like training events and training galleries to not just create space, but create a safe space. Because it comes with an engagement when you take people in and not just to tokenize them for one shola. And I think you guys can speak to that. I hope it answers Sarah's question. There's a lot of work to do in Ottawa, like a lot. Like it's ridiculous. Like often they pick me as like the minority and like my skin is white. Like it doesn't count. Just because I'm a girl, Franco-Ontarian, Métissé, you can't like, you gotta have real diversity, not just tokenized chuk.
Exactly.
Yes,
yeah.
Thank you for the House of Paint. Oh, my thoughts? Yeah, Ottawa has a lot of work. Well, just for example, the resident mural pilot, we're like 50 years behind. Montreal and Toronto are celebrating urban arts, as they call it, like the year of public art next year. And we're just throwing up a pilot this year that you can have a permit to paint on your own building, and you got to pay $150 per wall. Like Ottawa's not even in the conversation. I'm sorry,
but it's true, eh? We always say that when we, especially in the events industry, and maybe this is similar, Ottawa can be behind in a lot of aspects. I feel like we're, getting there. But certainly this is a topic then, and people who are listening today, I'm so happy that we're bringing it up because this is something to drive forward and make sure that people know. One of our other questions is, where's the art scene in the city? It's important to know, like, where is a good representation of the art scene in Ottawa, and where can we go to support that diversity? Jimmy, I think you were going to say something.
Well, I can tell you that coming from Montreal, like Mique said, the city is really lacking behind towards mural making and giving spaces for artists to paint uh, outdoor, for example. And it's sad because Ottawa is supposed to be the capital of art. From what I've learned when I grew up, it has all the biggest gallery, but it's only white people mostly in galleries. And it's sad because it's often people of color and people of a different background and languages that often create those art movements that are picked up by other people, mostly white, for them to create a profit out of it. And you've seen it in hip hop culture, for example, whether it's dance, graffiti, most of the predominant people are not the original people that created it. And you can see it, for example, in French rap in Quebec, where all the French rappers in Quebec are all white. All the black rappers are all underground for some reason, or you don't see them as mainstream. So I think there are a lot of work to do, and I'm happy that we're here to have this conversation, and we're the one that's shaping the future that is happening right now. So it's important for us to be able to hold the people in power accountable, but also create space for ourselves, like OBAC, for example, for people to know that Black artists do exist, which is OBAC is I forgot the exact pronunciation of the word, but it's a collective of all Black artists you can find on Instagram and online. And we share all the different Black artists that exist in Ottawa to give us visibility. And we could see now, because of the Black Lives Matter that happened this summer, all the racial injustice, that right now Black people are back into as the flavor of the month, flavor of the year. Whether it's negative or positive, it's the flavor of the year, right? It's going to disappear next year because it happens that way every year, and it's a cycle. So we just have to find a way to make it sustainable. My honest opinion.
If I could just add, because I know I just bleh, Ottawa, to add to Jimmy, we have OBAC, we have Origin Studios, we have Dripping Soul, we have strong, how to say, curators, Marissa Galimet. We have so many, but we don't have the city backing us up. Most of what we're doing is not just underground, is illegal, technically. Doing murals on certain streets facing Bank Street is still illegal. That's why you see them sideways. The Chinatown BIA had her backs to lift the bylaw on Somerset to finally have murals. It all started with Poor Boy, with that Bob Dylan. That was illegal. Painting Bob Dylan was illegal.
Yeah. Crazy. Okay, I want to make sure we hear from Asma as well. I'm going to ask another question, and Asma, I'll start with you. So just speaking on this, and obviously recognizing that we are in a really different time, there's really no other way to say it, and it sounds so cliche now, but it really is unprecedented. I'm curious how COVID has affected your world, and specifically, with your art. My hope is that, there's been some positive channeling through your art because of COVID, but even different opportunities or, different communities getting together like this one. But Asma, anything that you could think of off the top of your head in terms of how COVID's affected you?
Yeah, I think like the rest of the world, it's definitely impacted my life. The company I actually work for, in the design space, I can't really speak too much on the app, but I have been since March actually working on something related with COVID. So my every day is definitely filled with kind of finding solutions from a digital point of view. And I think personally for me, as far as my artwork goes, it's a blessing, and it's I'm sure there's little blessings everyone can find through the pandemic. And I think for me, I've just had so much more time, to really explore my art. For the last couple of years, there's a lot of big life changes for me. I got married, I moved, I changed jobs, and I also changed jobs quite a bit during that duration. So I used to draw a lot when I lived at home, but during the kind of transitional space, I didn't have the same type of time that I used to have. So just not having social obligations, kind of staying in more, it really like created so much more space for myself. And I think just dealing with COVID and just kind of the mental strain of it also opened up my own, I think, struggles, right? So for me, art really became that healing space for me, and it's always been that for me. You know, it's the one piece that allows me to feel like I'm in control. You know, it allows me to slow down, and so a lot of my work, I think, even throughout this pandemic, like when I look back at it, I'm like, you know, I love the work that I've been able to kind of create through it, and it is all just like my own personal expression, but a lot of it is, I think, it is one big narrative on my mental health, the mental health of my partner, my friends, my families, you know. So yeah, it's you know, it's a weird blessing, but it's been it's been nice to be able to do that again, you know.
Yeah, and silver lining, right? It's so important to see the silver lining. Jimmy, I think I wanted to ask you the same question, and I know Jimmy has to leave us a little bit early today. So Jimmy, I'll come to you. I think that you are now teaching some classes virtually, or and if you want to talk to anything else in terms of, you know, how COVID has started to shape your life in a different way.
Sure, yeah. Well, I started to work with Mask this year, which is an organization that put artists in different schools and stuff. And normally I'd be going into school doing my workshop, but now I have to do it online. And because of that, I had to buy a new computer because my computer could not sustain the amount of power I was given it, because I was doing Photoshop workshop on Zoom on a 2012 MacBook Pro. So before my MacBook Pro died, I decided to buy another one and give this one a really proper death because it helped me be where I am right now, you know? So in general, COVID has just helped me kind of more focus a little bit more of my ideas of what I want to do and who I am as an artist. With all the different things that have happened this year socially also made me question even my own personal type of art that I used to do because when I was younger, identity art wasn't really something I wanted to do. Me, I was more like cartoons. I want to draw whatever I want. I want to draw lettering and stuff. But now, since I live in Wakefield, and since I lived in Wakefield, I'm the only Black guy in the whole entire village, then my Blackness now becomes even more important. And I have two kids. Both of them are mixed. But their Blackness is their trait that's comes out more. So now I put this as an emphasis, whether it's in my family or the people that are around me, is always to share knowledge about Black culture and try to demystify some of the ideas and knowledge that we have as society, and come with facts that I've learned through what I've researched over COVID, because COVID was such a moment for, I think, for many of us to an introspective. And I think a lot of people were uncomfortable because they had to face themselves. And a lot of people never had the chance to face themselves because we were so out there, you know? And for me, it was a moment because I'm already that type of person. It just made it even more, I took that energy and tried to focus it to do something even stronger, you know? So here I am. Before I leave, I just want to acknowledge other wonderful artists I had to work with. This year, I had to finally work with Mique. I've been following her for a really long time. And now I'm happy to consider her a friend. And I also want to acknowledge Kal Kadan, the one with the artwork behind me right here. Without Cal, I would not be able to do what I do here in Ottawa, because he's such an important figure in the graffiti scene in Ottawa, and also as a Black graffiti artist, and as a Black artist, and as a Black person. So I want to acknowledge his presence. Without him, there would not be me in the mural downtown Ottawa, because he's the one who facilitated everything. And also, a little before I leave, the first picture in the presentation was actually his artwork. It's an honest mistake, but I just wanted to acknowledge this also.
Thank you, thank you.
My pleasure. So I have to leave because this exam is gonna bust my balls. But thank you for having me. I hope you can have me another time and stay longer. And Asma, it was really nice to meet you. Hopefully I get to talk to you one day in person. And everybody, be safe, be happy, and happy holidays.
Thanks, Jimmy.
Bye, Mumbo.
Bye.
Okay, so we've gotten a few more questions in the QA, which is awesome. Really, really great conversation. I love that it's flowing so naturally and organically. So the next one is specifically about Ottawa, but I want to open it up, and I think it's a great question. They're talking about what's the best thing in terms of art in Ottawa, but not only for minorities but all artists. And I think what they're really trying to get to is young artists that are coming up and maybe not sure what steps to take, what that looks like. And I'd love to know from the two of you, when you were starting off, if there were certain avenues that you were able to take, and how you got started.
Yeah,
I'll come to you. Yeah.
Sure, I can kind of start on that. I can even actually speak a little bit on the graffiti scene, how I did graffiti years ago for just like a small little bit. But I do think that there is a lot of talent in the city. And I think to what Mique was saying earlier, to what Jimmy was saying earlier, I just think that sometimes, there isn't a lot of, what's the word? Access to people, and I think even for myself as a Pakistani Muslim, artist, I remember when I initially, I'm a lover of hip hop. I've been a lover of hip hop since I was a little kid when I moved to Canada, and I loved graffiti. I grew up following forums, and I never knew how I could get into it. And a guy worked with my dad who was really big in the graffiti scene at the time. He goes by Keepsix. And, my dad very lovingly, little Pakistani dad, he was just like, oh, my daughter does art. But like my dad had no idea that he was a graffiti artist. And I remember we dropped him off one day, and, I started talking to Mique, and he was like, oh, you do art? And he told me he was a graffiti artist. And I was like, oh my God, this is the world that like I think if you don't know graffiti artists, it's a very tough, that was my experience, I think, way to actually be exposed to that scene, and especially at the time years ago, it was also just harder as a Pakistani girl at the time, to like, I don't know, it's just not something you would have access to. But Mique really took me under his wing and, showed me the ropes. I did it for a couple of years. I did it with my other Pakistani friend named Narmeen, who lives in Ojai, California now. It looks like Mique knows her too. So, for us at the time, both me and Meen, it was a big deal to be two Pakistani Muslim girls who identify as that, to take space in a community that really was kind of, at the time, was really run by like white guys. I didn't really know many minorities who were doing it. So it was a very intimidating space to get into. It's one of the reasons why I didn't stick with it. It was, it just felt very difficult. But I think one of the things I learned from it is like, things like this, having somebody like Mique on this panel, Jimmy earlier, like I think if there are people who are, aspiring graffiti artists or muralists or artists in general, I think sometimes just like reaching out to somebody makes a big difference. For me, being a graphic designer, I try to always keep myself open to, people currently in the Algonquin design program, anybody else. Sometimes when people reach out to ask for advice, especially people within my community, because it's very, you're, for a lot of us in our community, it's like you're an engineer, doctor, business,
Yeah.
So having access to the arts field isn't that accessible. But I think just as a minority, sometimes even just like taking permission to take space takes a lot of courage,
That's so well said.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. You can speak more on this. So
yeah, this is a good transition. And Mique, I'm going to come to you, and certainly you can address the question we just asked. If there's any tips on how you got started. any avenues. And the next question again follows up to say, if someone was trying to get into street art, connecting with other people in the community, what are good spaces to do that?
First, I got like it, because there's different. Graffiti has such a different thing. Like some people don't think I'm a real graffiti artist because I don't use typography, but according to me, like I'm all about as long as you got something to say. Like who cares if you're good? And that's what's the beauty of graffiti. Like look at how Banksy got started, and I hate him, and I don't even want to talk about him. But like he tried to write over King Robo, and his writing was not good. He sucked. So he used stencils because that was a way he could clearly communicate what he was trying to say. And this is what's so beautiful about graffiti, as long as you got something to say. And Asma, whoa, we probably crossed paths so many times. Narmeen and Mike, I was this angry little Hulk who couldn't communicate well with her art. Like, I didn't want to call it art because that's for like people in galleries, And they took me, and Cass too, which amazing woman. And I don't want to speak on her identity, but I know she's also a minority, I think mixed Iranian. And they saw how angry I was, and I needed it to be like, and Mike took me fishing under the bridge, and and calmed me down. And he was organizing House of Paint, and even I've had the privilege to work with House of Paint and be the graffiti coordinator for quite a couple years, and seeing doctors come and write because they have something to say, because they need, like, and it's all about, if you really have something to say, go and say it, take that space. Nobody's going to give it to you. As a white, Anishinaabe, Franco-Ontarian woman, like, yeah, you got to kick down that door, that train, whatever, like, put paint on it. Do it in a safe space. Now, mind you, I'm not telling everybody to, but yeah, reach out to people for sure. Especially we have, like growing up in Northern Ontario, I couldn't just go on Instagram because I'm old, even though we didn't have internet or not. It took me to move to France to learn proper, like what I think is proper graffiti, and learn how to really communicate what I have to say so people can clearly see it and get the message. And it's when I came back that I just jumped in. Sabra, who's now with the Canadian Art Council, who it's a bunch of youth who started House of Paint. It's a bunch of youth who went to this legal wall. Know your legal walls. Look at Outaouais. This is me online. Is it legal walls Outaouais? Les murs légaux Outaouais, something like that. But they literally have a map of all the legal walls if you want to start in a safe space like that.
That's awesome. Sorry, that's really great. So we'll see if we can get that, figure out what that website is and get it in the chat so that people can have access to that. Sorry, go on.
Oh, and ask the city, like, we need more people like Sabra and all them, like they have kids now. Narmeen was part of that conversation. Everybody was part of that conversation. We need more people to be like, look at Tech Wall. It's not a legal wall and it's falling off because people have so much to say. The paint is not holding on to the concrete. Now we need like the age of Algonquin to be like, why doesn't Algonquin have a legal wall? There's a lot of concrete there. That's a good question. I'm kind of proud of myself right now. But yeah, like, why not? Wouldn't it be amazing to know, like, it's such a safe way to bring stuff up without having to put your physical body in danger? Like, look at the Berlin Wall. Look at the wall for Mexico. What's on that wall? Go look at that. Like, they're treating Trump as Hitler right now on that wall. Which is like, yeah, please go Google it. It's gorgeous.
Awesome. Okay, thank you. Really quickly, Asma, we just want to ask again, if you have a sec, will you type the name of the artist in the chat? Everyone's asking about the painting behind you. So we just want to make sure that we get recognition and get his name out there. Okay, our next question is super cool.
There was just 2 walls. There's only 2 walls. Someone said there's 3 legal walls.
Oh, okay.
There's only 2. Tech is not a legal wall. They will just not prosecute you on it. And there's a lot of regulations with it. And just to tell you how they think about us, they turned it into a dog park. So you have to paint and shit. Yeah. Tech Wall, if you look at the history, and that's why with Black Lives Matter, with Dripping Soul, Calcadan, like Jimmy was saying, he's such an important role in Ottawa's graffiti and Black Lives Matters. Yeah. Legal Wall City, Ottawa, I wouldn't go, no, it's not that one. It's the Quebec side, it's Outaouais. Ottawa, there's the House of Paix, which is not the name, it's the expression walls. And then there's Tech, which is a wall they won't prosecute on. So yeah, sorry.
No, that's great. We want the
I
information.
didn't want to send anybody at a wall that's illegal.
Yeah. No, we appreciate that. Okay, good. Okay, so I have one last question. I think it's a really interesting one. And it comes from one of our Third Thursday committee members. So thank you, Jeremy, for the question, or sorry, Matthew, for the question. I'm curious how the group views technology and art. Can art be made by AI, or are there tools that they employ in their process that involve technology? So I think super interesting question. I'm really fascinated. Asma, we'll come to you first again if you have an opinion on this.
Yeah, so sorry, say the question again, like, is there a way to use?
Well, I think just first, do we think that AI can create art?
Sure, why not? I mean, technology is crazy. Like, I remember when I was in the graphic design program, seeing what was, at the time, I know Joey Arsenault's in this chat, so he was in my program. He's a very talented designer in Ottawa as well. I remember at the time what augmented reality, what that could do, to what it is now, even the Oculus Rift, like virtual reality. When I worked at Fuel, used to be a design agency here in Ottawa, and I remember, a couple of years ago getting a beta version of Oculus Rift and what it can do, and it was garbage. It wasn't anything crazy. To then 2 years ago, I went to a design conference in Toronto called FITC, and it wasn't Oculus Rift, but it was another one of those like virtual reality technology, and they partnered up with I think like 10 artists around the world to reimagine Las Vegas Strip, and Fafi, who's actually a graffiti artist from France, I believe. She actually did, it was one of her, I love her work. So she did her own, reality. It was crazy to view it in that, you're in Fafi's world through this, so I think it's definitely possible through AR.
Yeah.
I think it's
and it sounds to like, and even through your process of making art, you have used technology.
Yes, I mean, yes, as a graphic designer, I've been in the industry for 10 years. So I've definitely seen the industry evolve very quickly. It's from, at the time it was Photoshop, and people are still using Photoshop, but the programs are changing, and the way, it's really cool for me to see. I don't use it personally, like iPad Procreate. I know a lot of people use it. I don't, but it's very neat to see people who aren't even trained in design and illustration or art, and the way it's used, right? So I think the possibilities are definitely endless.
Awesome. And Mique, I'm curious, do you have the same perspective? You think AI can create art?
These are the Fafi shoes from that show.
Nice.
Yes. I just love how like everything just
Yeah. I love the community. Yeah, it seems we were saying that before. Like I think it's so great, and that's like what really gets me enthusiastic about it, is like every community has that strength, and that's why I'm happy that we're having this conversation. And we had some questions about maybe newcomers to the art scene, and seeing how tight knit it is, and really it can propel you and your ideas. I love, like, every time Asma says something, Mica's like, yeah, I know that person, and yeah, it's so great.
Well, for AI or for like technology, going back to Comey with his virtual reality project. So we were paired up, a graffiti artist, we were paired up with a poet, and we had like that virtual, but they put the two oldest together who had never been like with technology. So I think I might have cracked a TV by accident. It's like you forget what world you're in when they put you, and then you create your graffiti piece in that world you're in, and then the poem was like read out and the words were do you remember the name, sweetie? It was Comey's program. I'm sure if you look on his Instagram, it's there. And not just like AI, but technology and graffiti, especially when you want to address environmental issues. Are you going to use a spray paint can? No. Like, So the NEC, which is so unreal, and it tells you how much we need graffiti in this pandemic right now. The NEC actually projected all my graffiti all around the buildings. So when you were walking at night, all the buildings had it up. So it's a way to get your message across without using cans, you know? I was crying like a baby to think that I went from like being arrested to having my stuff on the NEC, like, whoa. But yeah, the 3D printers to get your stencils out, for just thinking like technology. But yeah, if you really want to see it in action, not to be cliche or anything, but Step Up Miami, I don't know which one it is, but they show you how you could use the Mac program to project graffiti on buildings, and at the same time it takes the whole legal and accessibility, like the having the permission, and also your budget restraints. So I think we did that for Winterlude when Sears was open. We did it all, and then people could just walk by and on the tablet do their graffiti.
Awesome.
And we would,
yeah. Okay, yeah, a great way to implement it. Okay, awesome, good. Okay, so again, we could talk about this all afternoon, but we've come to the end of just the panel discussion. So again, I just want to say thank you very, very much to our panelists. You know, I knew I was excited to have the conversation, and I knew that it would bring out some really great topics, but honestly, I think that we hit some really important things, especially about the pandemic, and you know, a diverse representation in art, I think is just, you know, an important message for everyone to take today. So I just want to say thank you. I'm going to reiterate to everyone who is viewing right now, we are going to post everybody's Instagram links in the chat. Start following them for those of you who are trying to get into the art world or trying to figure out, you know, where to start. This is it. We want to build a network and share the community. So check out our panelists on Instagram, start following them, support local, and get into the art scene. Okay, so thank you again. Yeah, thank you, Mique, and thank you, Asma. We are now just going to switch it over just in the last 10 minutes that we have here. Part of Third Thursday is our community soapbox. And I think most people know, I always love an opportunity for other people to reach out and speak again, you know, talking about communities. That's what Third Thursday is all about. We want to give a voice to people who are listening in right now and share their ideas. So basically, community soapbox is, you know, you got a side hustle going on, you got a project that maybe you need some help with, or an event coming up that you want to share. I'll invite anyone. You can put it in the chat. You're more than welcome to put it in the Q&A, and I can mention it live. We're on a webinar, so it's just more difficult for us to share as we do in person, but so important to still be able to, you know, talk to our community and use Third Thursday with intention, and that's part of why we gather, is to hear from everybody. So I'm seeing some stuff come up, so I'm just going to take a look here. Oh, it's just Leanne posting that in the chat, so thank you, Leanne. Okay, so I will invite people to post anything that they have in there. If not, we have 10 minutes left, so I'm going to pass it back to the panelists if there's any last words that you'd want to share with the group. Mique, I'll come to you first. Again, thank you for joining, and I just want to give you a platform if there's anything else that you want to share.
Protect yourself. Again, I know it sounds weird, but CARFAC, we have these beautiful organizations that are out there, and I gotta say, I always had like this wall. I'm like, everybody's out to get me as a new artist. Like, they're not going to pay me in time or blah, blah, blah. And CARFAC helped me out so much. So CARFAC. And being in Ottawa, the amount of accessibility we have to that, and like the Ottawa Art Gallery are amazing. Emerging Arts Network have these mentorship program. I have a mentee and we're doing graffiti, and he's amazing, Rel Spikey. It was such a cool collab. Yeah, there's also Paint It Up. Please look, Paint It Up is awesome. Easy if you want to start with grant application, it's 1 page. And Jimmy's done it with me, you know, Calcadan, Comey as well. So yeah, if I would say 3 things: CARFAC, Ottawa Art Gallery, Ottawa Arts Network, and painted up. Yeah, it's crime prevention, which, whatever.
Good. And Asma, anything from you?
No, I just want to thank you guys for including me in this. And, I said in the beginning, it really is an honor to be on a panel with both Jimmy and Mique. I am very familiar with their work. I can't remember the first time I actually saw a Mique piece, but I was like, wow, what is that? Like, for so long, it's like you would see a certain type of graffiti and all of a sudden it was like, wow, this line work, the colors, it really captivated me. And I believe you did it's like a bird that you did on, man, where is that bird?
I think it's
near that Piri restaurant. It's like,
Whoa. Yo, there's a funeral home. I didn't know it was a funeral home.
Oh, wow, yeah.
Caskets.
No, so it really is an honor to be on this panel. And in terms of anything I could add, I think it's just, to fellow artists and creatives, whatever space, people occupy in that, is to take your time. It's one of the things that, it was advice I was given when I was studying graphic design. It's advice I'm still given by, fellow artists, designers, and creatives. One advice that I got when I was actually in the graphic design program was an illustration professor, Stéphane Denis, who, has one of the reasons why I still illustrate is because of him. And he used to always say to me, like, have fun while you're doing it. Like, it's not worth it if you're not having fun. And I think I still hold that message true. Another professor of mine, Andrea Emery, who is a friend of mine now, but, she would say something similar. And also just like, the concept of encouraging to just like grow and to try new things, like I definitely have a set style that I enjoy working in, and it is my own style, but it is nice to have peers around you who do encourage you to take a leap and try something different. I love doing black and white, but it seems scary sometimes to explore in color within kind of the analog world that I'm in when I'm doing that. But it's have fun doing it and push yourself.
Awesome. I love what you said about collaborating too. It's the best way. Yeah, collaborate. Reach out to artists, like the piece you did with Robbie, Epic, like the next you did, I believe. With Robbie Larivière Fall Down Gallery?
Oh no, that's not me. It's probably somebody else. No.
Oh my God, I'm so sorry.
No, I love his work though, and I'm sure whoever did it, it's an amazing piece. So yeah, not at all.
I love to look it up, but yeah, collaborating, like everything you said, and taking your time, like it's sad to say, but it took a world pandemic for me to slow down and not burn out. Like that's sad. Like that's like.
But it's so true, and I think a lot of people that resonates. Like certainly myself, and it's a conversation we have often. It is silver linings, right? Yeah. Okay, awesome. So in the last 5 minutes, I'm going to pass this back over to Michelle because we want to see what Lisa has created.
Thank you, Susan. Okay, so Lisa's starting to share her screen. So we'll see the time lapse. That was amazing. Thank you so much, Lisa.
Thank you. It was my pleasure. What a great conversation.
That's incredible. And can we share that out after? Is that
Yes, I'll export it and send it to you.
amazing? Okay, so we can send that to everyone who registered for the session today. That was very cool. Thank you so much, Lisa. Thank you to all of our attendees. Thank you to our panel members. Thank you, Susan. I'm wishing everyone a happy holiday. And we have our next third Thursday when we come back. So January, it'll be the third Thursday. I think it's about the 21st or so. So stay tuned on the Algonquin College Student Services events calendar for updates there. And yeah, happy holidays. Thanks, everyone.
Happy holidays. Thanks, guys.